Hello again. In this video tutorial, we'll be going over creating a new part. So first things first, you open up Creo. You want to select a working directory. Now I've made a little separate file here that I'm going to work in today. Not container module. Okay. Now I want to make a new part. So go new part. File name, this is important. Do not make silly names like version 2.6, take 10, the real one. That is extremely painful to work with. Trust me, I've done it. You don't even bother doing that stuff. To have a real name. So if we have something like cell, something simple, something that makes sense to and is relevant to what you're working on. We're going to just untick the default template to make sure that we're using the right template. We press OK, and it's got new racing part. So here we've got the 4 inputs for the parameters for the drawing. And these come through when you make a actual drawing. So it goes from the model to the drawing paper. We'll get around to that later, but obviously some material. For this, I'm going to model a pouch cell. So these sorts of things aren't really common. So material, I could put pouch cell there, whatever. I'm just going to leave it for this one. Normally you really need to be filling them all out. Name, T, make sure you're in caps too. Part number, your part number can be found on SharePoint or in Teams. There is a Word document outlining them, and there's also a register of all parts. So please ask either your chief mechanical engineer or one of your team leaders about part numbers and whatnot. They are completely associated with the cost report, so it's important that you get these things right now because it makes your life easier down the track. So for this, I'm just going to call it B, since it's not an actual part on the vehicle. B10006 or something. Part title, cell. I don't know, cell. That'll do. Okay, material, let's just call it. Yeah, we'll leave it. Righto, so first things first, you get to these planes here. Top, front, right. Now, while it doesn't matter, it's generally nicer if you get this right the first time. Because obviously when you select a view, if you're making a drawing, it's hard to tell if you've drawn it on the top thing upside down and it's really the side because you have to filter through the different views basically. So if you can get this right, it's a really easy thing to get wrong, but if you just try and stay consistent with what you do, then that's good. So today we're doing a cell. So there's a few ways. So everything basically is going to start with an extrusion. Obviously there's a few times you're going to do a sketch, but pressing the extrude button will automatically want you to do a sketch anyway. So it's like one shorter step here. So see how I'm in the sketch option now? So if I just close that, I could have gone ahead and gone sketch on this surface. Yes, please sketch. Drawn a rectangle. Okay. Now that rectangle just sits there as a sketch, and then I could go extrude. But obviously there's not too many times where you wanting to draw sketches unless they're like references for your assembly. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. Delete. Whoops, that's the wrong one. Cancel. Delete that. Okay, so extrusion on the front. So there's quite a lot of drawing tools here. Line, I don't think I use it too often. This sort of tool was more useful in Inventor. In Creo, unless you're doing a revolve or something similar to that, you're generally going to stick to shapes. I'm definitely going to regret saying that, but more often than not, you're using shapes to draw things. So rectangle, and then okay, let's take that back right now. So obviously, if you want to do a cutout, you get the line tool out and do whatever. So now I want to have this here cut out, but make it a bit symmetric. If it will lock. Anyway, it's not going to lock, but it has locked there. See how it says equal, and it's also highlighted the other line there green. And then I forgot like that. Now, middle clicking in drawings is, sorry, a sketch is probably the most common thing you're going to do. So once I'm finished here, obviously it's trying to say, where do you want this thing? I'm going to middle click there, it's going to cancel that. Let's say I'm done with drawing things, I'm going to middle click again, and then it's going to say, okay, so what dimensions do you want these things? And then I can go out and get this tool up here, which is delete segments. So I'm going to click on that, and now I can get rid of these here. Cool. Now we've got this sort of shape here. Now I want these to be even. I could go ahead and go, okay, well this is, sorry, I just middle click then. Say this is 60. And I could go and say, well this is also 60. But instead of that, if I want to change this later, that means I have to go and change both of the things. Obviously with this, there's only two things here. You might think, well, what's the point? There's only two things. It's one extra click. Well, if there's multiple sections with the same value, for instance, then that's when it starts becoming useful. So I'm just going to come up here and press the equals button. Now this and this is equal. So now this is always referencing to that. And if I wanted to, I could go and add more. So I could say also that one, also this one, probably not that one. I'm going to control V that. And yeah, so I'm going to leave it like that. So middle click. So it cancelled that. Now I'm going to, so for instance, I want this in the center. So see how this is 50.98 and this is clearly longer. I can either press dimension and I can go from here to there, and then it will ask me, sorry, it'll get rid of this dimension because now one of these is redundant. So I'm going to leave it as like 80. And then if I go do that again, it's been happy. But sometimes it'll be restrained already by something else. I'm just going to leave that like that. But another tool you can use is the reference tool. So if something, for instance, the length of something is already defined, but you want something to be even, if I just put in a reference tool there, I can go ahead, so if I just delete that one there, I can go ahead and make that equal to this. There we go. And that's a good way to center things if they're not, if you've drawn them off the center axis. So obviously you can put down center lines and these will easily make things snap. So I might just start again and show you the difference with a center line. Center line, it's not letting me pick anything. I'm just going to start all the way from scratch. Front, extrude, center line, done. So now it'll be more likely to snap to things to make them even. So if I draw this to here, if I draw this, it'll be like, oh, well, that also came from that center axis. It's coming off the same point. You probably want them to be even. So yes, I do. I'm going to come down. And you can see me using the tool, which never gets used, the line tool. Obviously, that's not straight there. So I could fix that by deleting it. You can also use this tool here, which is the perpendicular tool. And I'll say, well, that's perpendicular to that, please fix. And that's fixed itself. Obviously, there's a few things which have automatically snapped. So, for instance, this dimension is now referencing this because it's the same. Same with that and that. And these ones as well. So I'm going to go ahead and change. Don't know what that's referencing to. It looks like these are referencing to this. If I just dimension this, yeah, so it's taken that. So if I want to delete that, click there, see how it says these two are equal. If I want to get rid of that, I can just press delete. Now they're not constrained to each other. I don't know if those two were the whole time or not. But yeah, that's the way you remove those constraints. But obviously I want that back there, so I'm going to go U up here. So that was just me, dimension tool, left click, up here I'm going to press middle click, and it'll drop that dimension down. And yeah, so I'm going to go equal, U and U are the same, deal with it. I'm going to make that, get out of that, 60 or something, done. What else have we got? 26, 10, I don't know what I'm making yet. 250. Obviously, you don't want to make silly dimensions because unless you're modeling something that already exists, if they're somewhat accurate, because things generally get made to the whole number, they don't get made to the 0.1682. But if you do find something like that, it's probably safer to round it up if it's getting put into a confined space, because that means that you're making sure you leave enough space for it anyway. But in terms of engineering something, you don't want these silly numbers if they're not required. Obviously, there are times when you need a certain clearance, but that's most of the time is not the case. So I'm going to make that 20. Yep, I'm not sure what I'm kind of. So here's a reference here now. So this is what I was talking about before. So since this has already been defined how long it is, and I've got 3 dimensions up here, and I want a reference view, so I can either undo that, I can delete other ones, get rid of this equal length one, whatnot. So because these are equal, it's saying, well, you've already dimensioned one of them. Why are you getting the other one out here? So I don't want them to be equal, so I'm just going to delete that constraint there. So now I've got these two are equal and these two are different. I can go ahead and make these the same. Done. Okay, let's finish the extrusion. So at the moment we've just got a flat sketch, right? So now we want to do an extrusion. So we press OK with the sketch, and then it says how big do you want it? So there's a few other tools here. Obviously they're not really useful because we're just at the simple part stage. You can also extrude as a surface. For this here, it's just doing the outline. There's not too many times you'll need to do this. Surfaces come more handy when you're doing things like body panels and etc. So we're going to stay as solid. You can choose which direction you want to go. And yeah, I'm just going to put in a nice number, so 15 or something. Yeah, looks about right. Okay, done. And now I've got our part. So let's say our pouch cell. This is a very goofy looking pouch cell. It's obviously not nice and tight around the edges here. So there's a few ways we could go and fix that. We could do extrusions as surfaces. We could do multiple extrusions where we bring both faces in, which is kind of more steps than required. So I'd probably be more inclined to So let's say this is the center. To model the small section first and then build up on top of that. You'll see what I mean in the end here, but just bear with me for a second. So I'm just going to go and edit this extrusion now. So there's a few ways when editing. You go extrusion, and you can edit your sketch like this. Alright, so that's to edit your sketch. To edit the actual extrude, go edit, definition. Right, and that gives me that. It does let me edit some of these parameters too. If I want to edit the drawing more, I can also right click and edit internal sketch. So that's another way to get back there. Another handy one is to just go click on this one here, edit dimensions, and that'll just go, okay, these are your things. You can go ahead and just change them there. Which is also nice because you can change things like your actual extrusion while also changing your other dimensions as well. Anyway, I'm going to edit this extrusion. So change it from 15 to, let's say, 3. Done. And then I want to put 2 faces on top of this. Now, this will be super easy if that middle plane, this plane here is on the center. I'm not sure if I can. There we go. So I've just selected this tool here, and what this tool does is it splits the extrusion so that half of it extrudes on one side and the other half goes on the other, and it's through that center plane. And this is really useful for a tool which I'm about to use, which is a mirror. So I'm going to finish that up, press, yep, I'm done. And now I'm going to do another extrusion here. I think now is a good time to mention the offset tool. Now the offset tool is super useful, not really for what I'm about to do. What I'm about to do could be done much easier with the rectangle. But let's say you've got your outside parameters and you want to get the same shape, but it either needs to be bigger or smaller by a small amount. You can use the offset tool to do that. So this tool up here is the offset tool. So if I go chain, I select them all. So I've selected 2 things and it said, okay, is this what you want? And it's gone and highlighted the whole thing and said, hey, is this what you want? And yes, it is. So I go accept. Yep. So I can offset that by -4. And now there is a surface which is inside of that, which is super cool. So if you've got really complex geometry, let's say you're 3D printing something that has to go over or inside of something else, the offset tool is your best friend. So I'm just going to go follow through with that and see what this ends up looking like. I'm going to bring it out 4 mil, I think. Yeah, that'll do. So I'm going to press OK there. So now I've got one side done. We want to do another side. So we want to do this side here. So we could go about this by going and doing the exact same procedure over here, or we could use a mirror. So if I select that, the mirror tool's actually not showing itself, which is a bit odd, but there's another way to do it too. So sometimes you can either just select what you've just done and then go to mirror up here, or just in here, it's got a quick tool with a mirror or a pattern. So a pattern we'll get into a bit later, but obviously mirror, so there it is there, it's highlighted because I need to select the extrusion, and then I can just mirror that, and it says, where's your mirror plane? Because I've moved that to the center, I can now select that face there, and I'll just chuck it straight on the back there. Fantastic. Okay, what is next? So we'll get into the round and the chamfer tool in a bit. I think I'm going to do a pattern on here now, just to demonstrate it. So let's say, for instance, you've got some sort of small tabs that run down this. Or let's say this is a aluminium cell. It's because it's got a housing and it needs cooling fins or whatnot. So now we can go ahead and make a pattern of that. So go ahead and do an extrusion. So this could be holes, this could be extrusion coming out, it could be anything, right? As long as it's an extrusion. It could also be the actual hole tool, but I'm just going to do it like this. So if I just do like a rectangle here, so you can do multiple things, right? You don't just have to do the one. So I could have that. I'm just going to press OK. And that can come out to 2 mil. Okay. And then I go pattern. So it's got dimension at the moment. I generally only use the axis or direction. So axis is more for something that's round, and direction is for basically everything else. So I'm going to go direction. So you go, okay, select your direction. I'm going to just select this edge here, and as you can see now, it's saying, okay, we'll go down this way. How many do you want? Well, we want 10. What spacing do you want between those? Well, we want 20. So now, as you can see, these dots here represent where that rectangle is going to go. If I go OK, we now have a bunch of patterns on there. So if we go in and edit, so see how it says pattern 1 of extrude 3. We open this tree. If we edit extrude 3, it'll edit the whole pattern. So if we go edit internal sketch, I'm wondering if this will work. I'm not sure if it will. But if I also go, so obviously I can change this thing here, make it bigger. If I make another shape here, yep, it should work then. Okay. And I'll also add other things there too. So obviously you can do whatever you want. You can get super fancy with it. This is really useful for when you're adding detail. And while you think detail might be a bit of a waste of time, it's most certainly not in terms of figuring out how things fit and how things are going to look attached to each other. So I actually don't need these patterns, so I'm just going to delete those. So that was just right click, delete. Okay. Now let's say, for instance, you want to put some text on the cell to say it's a codem cell or something. So if I want to do that extrusion, I can also do this as a sketch, but I've generally just used extrusions. Text, and it always goes from down upwards. So down, up, what do you want it to say? It's a codem cell, change a font, don't really ever change anything else. Okay, it says codem. If I want to change the size of it, middle click to say, okay, I'm done with that thing. It'll be like, okay, how big do you want it? Well, that's pretty big. Let's change that down to 15. Middle click, okay. That now exists. So obviously I did this as an extrusion. And I don't know what machine could possibly make that, but I'm just going to make it 0.3 because that's the minimum extrusion size. And because it's just text, like this thing's just printed on there,
doing something 0.3 is not going to really have an effect on anything. If you really wanted to, or you're worried about it, you can just flip it so it's taking material out just slightly, but obviously it's up to you. Just press OK there. And now I'm just going to do some rounds and some chamfers to show you how that works. So obviously our cells don't look like that, so I'm just going to go round over here. I'm just going to select all of these. Now as you can see, it's not, well, they're all the same. If I go and change this to a 5, it hasn't changed the rest of them. So this is some kind of slightly annoying. The way to change those is if we go back up to set, and it will show me all of the ones that we've just done. So if you want to change them, you just go, oh, make that 5, please. Make that 5. It's a little bit annoying. I think there's a drop down for it. Oh, lovely. But yeah, I generally, if it's a big one and you've messed up, I'd probably just delete it and do it again. But obviously, if you've just got one that's out or a few that are out, you can come in this way to adjust them all. Press OK. Now I've got rounds there. Now I'm super lazy and I don't want to have to do the same for the other side. And I haven't got the other extrude on the other side yet either. What happened to that? Anyway, so this extrusion here, yeah, this one. I don't know what happened to the mirror, but we'll put that back on this side. Done. Yeah, I want you there. And I'm too lazy to go ahead and do all those rounds again. So if I go mirror you, obviously that doesn't work because it's text. And now I think delete. So I think if I mirror, delete you, if I mirror these two, it'll take both the rounds and the extrude with it. So sometimes I thought you could normally just mirror that round as well. It's very picky in the way it goes about saying you can do that mirror. So you don't think you can't mirror around, you definitely can. But there's obviously a huge order of operation thing that goes on too. So sometimes you have to mirror one thing at a time. Just then you saw it was only letting me do it in bulk. Obviously there's just a few things that happen right and don't happen at all sometimes, but there are quick ways to do it. So don't think you can ever just not mirror around or a chamfer or whatever, because you can. If the thing you're trying to mirror it to is the same, you can do that. But yeah, there's also the chamfer tool, which is basically the same as the round tool, but obviously it puts chamfers on things. 1, oops, 2, cool beans. Yeah, I don't know, down here. Oh, lovely. Just got some scissors on the cell. Looks fantastic. Awesome. I think I'm going to wrap up this tutorial there since this has been going on for a while. But thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, don't forget to save your work too, by the way. So I've just pressed the save button and it says where to. Obviously my directory is now in modules. Press OK. Anyway, see you in the next one.